One of the most interesting and picturesque towns in central Pennsylvania is Annville. A group of resident videographers set out to capture the essence of this special community. This is unique. Join us now as WITF, our premiere broadcast of Our Town Annville.
From the banks of the Quitty Creek to the front row of the Allen Theater, see the town of Annville through the eyes of the people who live there. For a few weeks in early spring, Annville residents used their camcorders to highlight the people and places that make their town so special. Jog into the sunrise with some hardcore runners. Take a trip back in time at the old Annville train station and catch a Pennsylvania Dutch concert by the one and only Boom Boss Band. This is Our Town Annville.
Funding for this program is provided in part by the Allen Theater and MJ's Coffee House, offering current studio releases, independent and foreign films, and film festivals, plus a unique place to stop by for dinner or dessert before or after the show. John H. Boger & Son, family owned and operated for more than 50 years, specializing in commercial and residential concrete services and heating oil. Lebanon Valley College, a 4-year private liberal arts college, annually ranked among the top colleges in America by U.S. News and World Report. And Laudermilk Meats, serving Annville since 1919 with a full line of quality fresh and smoked meats, lunch meats and cheeses, plus prepared foods and baked goods.
Along the banks of the Quittapahilla Creek in southwest Lebanon County lies a little town that takes pride in its history. Annville was originally called Millerstown after the founder Abraham Miller, whose father Andrew Miller started a flour mill here in 1747. German immigrants changed the name to Annville to show their appreciation to Britain's Queen Anne for her help in purchasing land in America. A farming community, Annville grew to be the home of Lebanon Valley College, along with 4,500 people who work together to build a community that cares.
In our early days when we were just starting out, and of course we were a novelty, so people would come around when they saw us, and they said to our bass drummer, Fred Paulson, who lives down here on Main Street, "Where are you guys from?" And he said, "We're from Annville." And they said, "A bagpipe band in Annville? Get on!" My background is Scottish, but the reason I like the pipes is because of the double reed sound, which I just find so exciting. It's just a thrilling sound, and I've always liked it since I was a kid. My aunt used to take me to parades. There's something edgy about it, and I think that's what I like. Well, of course, the first characteristic sound of the bagpipe is the drone. The second, then, is the very piercing and thrilling, really, quality of the chanter sound itself, which is the actual melody-making part of the pipes. It is not hard to learn the basics. It is very difficult to play well. It's a continuous flow of sound once you've blown up the instrument. The other thing is that your range is very limited. You have only 9 notes. So you have to play all the music you're going to play using these 9 notes, and you have to articulate any melodies that you want to play without interrupting the flow of sound. And to hit those and hit them all and hit them exactly right, that takes a lot of practice. The best part about being involved with the band for me is the opportunity to play together once a week and on these jobs with my friends. I think that's true for most of the people in the band, or they wouldn't be there.
I'm Cindy Funk. I've lived in Annville my entire life. I grew up on a farm north of Annville. There's a lot of different kinds of farms around here. We have the poultry industry, we have the hog industry, we have the dairy industry. The town grew out of farms. The first settlers in the area were farmers. We visited the Boogers Dairy Farm. The house was originally built in 1833. We got to go in the cow barn, and we watched a cow being fed from a bottle, a calf being fed from a bottle, and some of the other cows and heifers eating their hay. But the most exciting thing, we thought, because we hadn't observed it before, was the cow pedicure. Cows need their hooves trimmed and cleaned, and someone actually provides that service to the farmers. That cow that we observed was so docile, I don't think she cared at all. Right across the street from the Bucher farm is the Sellers farm. That house was originally built in 1796. It is also a dairy farm. I did ask one little girl what her jobs are in the barn, and she told me she helps to feed the calves, feed the cats, and sometimes she gets to milk. I visited a poultry farm. Poultry is another very big industry in the area, both laying chickens and meat chickens. There's so much really fresh, locally grown food available. We have the dairy here. We have a lot of produce stands around. We have orchards, we have fresh meat. I think it's important to Annville because of the food source and because of farm people coming into town and helping to run the economy in town.
Just like the old cliche, behind every good man there's a good woman. The farm women were equal partners on those farms, and some of the ladies shared with me how they would milk the cows, and back then the herds were about 50 cows. But when somebody would come to visit, the women were told to go in the house because they didn't want anyone to see that the women were milking the cows. They were just supposed to do the lady things like the sewing and the cooking and things like that. But in reality, they were out there working right beside their husbands. They have a farm women's group, and there's actually a state association. So they have their meetings, I guess, monthly, and just happen to be there in Annville.
Then Jesus sent 2 disciples.
It was neat because they supported each other, and they would read the Bible and sing hymns and eat, lots of food to eat. So they just had a really good time.
Oh my word.
Saving family farms is a real concern around here. Farm families are having a harder and harder time of making a go of it, and development is encroaching on all sides.
We have about 76 farms preserved, almost 9,000 acres. I think this year, 2005, we will hit the 10,000 acre mark in preservation. So they take farming real serious in Annville townships.
I'm Craig Lane, and I've lived here for the past 4 years. I came to Annville in 2001 when I was a freshman at Lebanon Valley College, and it's been an amazing 4 years. The Valley, that's what we call it for short. Everybody gets very well acquainted right from the get-go. I felt at home right from probably the first month that I was here. And you'll see people in the dining hall, and everybody knows one another. The campus is so small. You see them every day. When you're walking to class, when you're walking between buildings, you just always see people you know. It's a very, very peaceful campus. It's very beautiful. When you do see people out there sitting on benches studying or sunbathing when it's really nice out. The Peace Garden is probably the prettiest place on campus. It has a little babbling brook in it, a waterfall, a pond with koi fish in it, and there are ducks that live in there. It's beautifully landscaped. And just a relaxing place to go. It goes along with that relaxing, laid-back, sort of home-like environment on campus. The mascot is the Flying Dutchman. It's a little guy who looks kind of like the Fighting Irish, except he has wings on his wooden shoes, and he's probably the most bleach blonde you could ever find. It's a very unique mascot. We also have a really cool tradition. It's called Dutchman Day. And Dutchman Day is a day that is totally unannounced late in the spring semester. You wake up in the morning and there's signs up and the RAs get a phone call saying, it's Dutchman Day today, there's no classes. So they bring in all these fun like carnival games and activities. Reflecting on 4 years, I'm very glad I went to school there. It was just an amazing experience.
I'm Linnea Miller, and I've lived in Annville since 1969. I started as a Lebanon Valley College student. My husband's families do go back into the mid-1700s, actually living in Annville. Now I understand why my husband never wanted to leave town. The historic district actually begins at the Quittapahilla Creek on the west of Annville and travels along Main Street 422 to Sailor Street. And the West End has such a variety of homes. You go from brick to stone to frame to log. The Mary Goss house is the oldest documented home in Annville. Within the past 30 years, the owner did do some renovations with it, and they changed a lot of what the exterior looked like, so it doesn't look like your typical old log cabin. There was an article written and presented before the Lebanon County Historical Society in the early 1900s. It's mentioned there of the 3 oldest still standing homes in Annville. They were the brick home, which is still there today at the corner of Main and Mill Street, where the Lebanon Valley National Bank is underneath the facade. That's a second home. The other brick home, it's white brick now because insulating brick was put over the red. That home was built approximately 1836. The Badorf home is at the corner of Main and Bachman Road. That home would be going back to the mid-1700s. I've read that possibly George Washington stopped by there at one of his drives from Harrisburg to Lebanon. Dr. Rank's barn is really interesting. It is the original barn that was back there. I just think it's a wonderful piece of architecture. Henry Berry was the builder of what is now Kettering's Corner. It had been the Fleischer livery at one time. Paul Kettering had a sporting goods store there since the middle of the 1900s. Kettering's Corner is an ice cream shop. What I like about being a family historian is finding the stories behind the names. It's easy to find names and dates, but when you can put some flesh on those dates, it's so much more fascinating. It helps you understand who you are today by knowing what your family was like generations and generations ago.
I love music. I play a little bit of guitar, and after moving here, I realized that there's quite a bit of music in Annville on any given day. I'm Fred Hummel, and I've lived in Annville approximately 6 years. One of the first places I decided to feature is MJ's Coffee House. It's a classic coffee house. You've got people sitting around sipping cappuccinos, tea, playing chess, reading books, and also being entertained. Open mic night is real popular with the college students. The night that I shot, they had a young lady named Kyler England, and she was a vocalist and guitarist. They also have jazz night at MJ's. Sam Banks that night was playing drums. Sam Banks in particular brings some big time to that jazz venue there at MJ's. He's played with Ella Fitzgerald, he's played with Pearl Bailey, he's played with Muddy Waters. So it's a chance for Annville to see some of the big time. The Corvette Grill, another place for live music on the other end of town. Their specialty is hot wings and some live music on the weekends. That is the rock and roll place. They used to offer karaoke. I'm sorry they don't anymore. I think a lot of towns can claim jazz bands and brass bands and other types of musical acts. Not many can claim a genuine boompas band. Boompas is a German instrument. They used to play at funerals to ward off evil spirits, and now they just bring a good time. It's an interesting instrument. It's basically a stick with a lot of percussion instruments attached to it. And it's played very vigorously with a drumstick in time to other music they'll play on a CD player or a tape recorder. It's an instrument of German heritage, and Pennsylvania Dutch has a lot of that around here. They're very popular at nursing homes. They've played all over Pennsylvania and New Jersey. One of the most requested tunes is the Chicken Dance. Sometimes people don't understand or don't realize that there is so much live music performed in Annville. It's a wonderful place to come and relax, to see any type of, and hear any type of music that you are interested in, whether it's jazz, classical, brass band, bagpipes, you name it, and we pretty much have it.
My name is Laura Buck. I've lived in Annville for 24 years, my entire life. The Batdorf has a southwestern cuisine. It opened on Valentine's Day weekend with its grand opening. It was the old Annville Inn. So far it's been doing really well. The owners are three brothers, the Rotunda brothers. They own it. Lou does the cooking, Dave does the PR in the front of the house. Mikey does whatever they want him to. They have anything from salmon to burgers to beautiful fresh salads. It's a nice place to go with your family or with a date, or even you can take your kids in there. The Washington House, this is new. It's been a restaurant now for about 2 years. And before that, it was a bar where me and my friends would come. It's completely different. It looks beautiful. It's very modern. They serve American cuisine. They won Best New Restaurant. The residents love it. They love to have their own place in Annville to come, take their time and be served. It's just a nice place to come and relax.
And then he took that tail and he pushed it down into the mud.
My name is Vicki Gingrich. I've lived in Annville for the last 30 years. The Annville Free Library, it looks so homey and is meant to look like that. It was not a home. It was built as a library, but with the intent for it to look like a home, which it's so unique. The library is just so unique compared to other libraries in the area. When you walk in, that's exactly what you feel like you're in someone's living room. The history of the Annville Library starts back in the 50s when Gideon Kreider donated the money to have the building. He did not want his photograph displayed above the fireplace. He bought two really beautiful Audubon original lithographs to hang. They're gorgeous, but they're not hanging above the fireplace. His picture is. I imagine he's turning somewhere, not real happy. I don't know.
A straight tail?
The Annville Library has been such a part of the community. I took my kids there when they were little, and you'd always meet somebody from town, or you'd know someone as you walk through the door. Within the last 3 years, the library recognized that youth needed a place to be, which is real progressive thinking. It's really very cool that they came up with the whole idea of hiring someone who would be working with kids grades 4th through 9th grade.
And the mud dry.
Where Cindy lets off with little kids story time at 3rd grade, we sort of pick up. We have a separate room set up for computers and a lot of board games called the Young Adult Room or the YA Room. It's turned out to be a really amazing space for kids to come after school. Working with the kids is a blast.
Oh, no!
If you think of libraries and you think you're going to walk in and somebody's going to go, shh, shh, don't do that, be quiet. It's probably many times exactly the opposite depending on the time of day. Early morning when the little kids are trekking through and gone to story time, it's loud. It's rather calm in the afternoons until about 2:30 when the younger kids come in from school. And then it gets crazy until maybe 6. It's not what I remember a library. Especially if you go downstairs when the youth are in the room, you better, like, just if you don't like to hear things, then move to another part of the building. It feels like the right place. That's why I'm back in town working again. The town's given me a whole lot, so it sort of feels like the right thing to give back. And that's pretty much why I'm at the library.
There's more to come on Our Town Annville.
The Allen Theater is really a place that's become synonymous with Annville. There are people who don't know that Lebanon Valley College is in Annville, but when you tell them it's where the Allen Theater is, they right away they know where it is. I remember the Allen from my very earliest days. I have vivid memories of walking down Main Street when I was about 5 years old to go see The Wizard of Oz that was playing at the theater.
I am Skip Hicks, and I worked in Annville for approximately 10 years. The reason that I came to Annville was the fact that there was a movie theater that was for sale. And as a child, I was always very impressed with going to single-screen movie theaters, entering the theater, seeing that larger-than-life image on the screen and curtains parting. And I made up my mind when I was a child that if I ever got the chance to own a theater, I would try to fulfill that desire of mine. I found out about the theater and the fact that it was up for sale just passing by. And I looked at it and I thought, you know, that would be the right size for a person to own and operate. I thought maybe we could do some painting and turn on the lights and operate the theater, but I quickly found that that was not the case. It opened in about 1917. It was at that point called the Hippodrome, and it was basically a second-run theater up until about the late 1960s. And at that point, business was slowing down for single-screen theaters. And so the Astor Theater, as it was known then, actually ran pornographic films to stay afloat. It closed and again reopened with a different name, the Trinity, and at that point they showed religious films. And then that aspect lasted for about a year, and then it shut down probably in about 1989 until we purchased the theater in about 1993.
The theater is really a true theatrical experience when you go to the movies there. It's a full screen with the curtain and the stage and wonderful seats and just the sense of being in a theater from years ago, yet one that has been meticulously upgraded.
This will sound a bit exaggerated. I see the Allen Theater as being essentially the cultural centerpiece of Annville. My name is Jeff Ritchie. I've lived in Annville for about 3 years now. Skip shows wonderful films that you just wouldn't be able to see outside of New York City.
And now please enjoy Phantom of the Opera. And I think
Skip actually gets up in front of the audience before every show and makes community announcements.
If you look up there, it's not every theater you get to see the projection. Danny, have anything to say to this audience? Oh! Roll 'em.
You not only have the theater, it opens right into the coffee shop, which is just a buzz before and after the show.
I've been there till 2 in the morning, just hanging out, talking with the med students and with Skip, just drinking coffee and in the coffee house, and just kind of, I don't know, just chatting. It's a comfortable, easy place to be able to talk with people, meet people. I could not imagine Annville without that theater and the coffee house.
The word Quitapahilla means stream that flows from the ground under the pines. There is a statue on the campus, and it's a bronze statue, 7 foot 2 inch tall, statue of a Native American, and it is called the Quitapahilla. She's supposed to be a spirit, a goddess. She's supposed to represent the agricultural bounty in our area, and the woman that designed her is known for designing larger-than-life statues of women goddesses. I think she adds beauty and a place to come in the spirit of women, too. I like that.
My name's Raymond Swingholm. I lived in Annville for approximately 55 years. From a boy on up, I always enjoyed the Quitapahilla. I know its source and I know its ending. Its source begins down near what they call the vocational career school. And then it flows through the city of Lebanon and empties into the Swatara at Valley Glen. And as a kid, when I was about 14, 15 years old, my cousin and I walked that whole thing. And we saw a great deal of disruption to that water. Up into Fifth Avenue and Cumberland Streets, the stream was rather pure. And right on the other side of Fifth Avenue, the Bethel Steel had a galvanizing department, and they were dumping residue in there, and any fish that got into that area was killed immediately. And then to the city of Lebanon, I saw raw sewage being emptied into that stream, and it was a mess. We have it cleaned up. When I started teaching school back here, some of the youngsters were also interested in cleaning that up. So we went down, we pulled out tires and pulled out cans and bottles and many other things. And people all along began to take an interest, and the Quitty is clean again. I feel great because the Quitty was always a nice stream. I consider it a nice stream.
Now it's a approved trout waters, and it's stocked by the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission. I'm Kyle Smith, and I've lived in Annville for 16 years. It's loaded with fish, a lot of fish, and a lot of fishermen. My daughter Rebecca and I came down the Quitty, and we did about a 1-hour float from Cleona through Annville, all the way down through the Quitty Park. So a lot of ducks, geese, we saw fish, muskrats along the banks. There was a mink living in the Quitty Creek. And we didn't get wet, but the water is always cold. The Quitty's a spring-fed creek, so it's always cold. It's just a nice place to play, especially on a hot summer day, because there's a canopy over, you know, a tree canopy of leaves over the creek, and it's always a cooler place to be in the summertime.
I am Ann Lass. Lasky, and I've lived in Annville 29 years. There was a real nice patch of woods out behind our house, and we joined with a group of citizens and went to the township and asked them if we could make it a park. The park started in 1989. I love taking a walk there. I like taking my friends and my family through the park. And I like going to look for the wildflowers in the spring. And when our kids were little, they used to bring the little rafts down from the house and drag them down and put them in the quarry and paddle around and pretend they were going down the Grand Canyon.
There's plenty more. We just gotta find them.
What I like about it the best is it has activities for the community, and it can bring neighborhoods together. So we have an annual egg hunt. I love the activities, to see the kids trying to find the eggs. They were just having such a good time, and the Circle K Club just loved putting that on for the kids. Sometimes I'll just say, this is so good. This is the best kept secret in Annville.
I'm David Lasky, and I've lived in Annville since 1976. Brant's Mill is probably one of the oldest operating mills in the United States. It was built in 1748, still working, 3 shifts. The original owner of Brant's Mill, a man named Miller, actually got a land grant from William Penn and started Annville. Today, they make flour, and the Brant family has owned it for many, many years. They just sold it recently. The person who owns the mill now is a David Poorbaugh, and he's the one that gave me the historic background of the mill. And when we first moved to town, you were able to go down there and buy your flour. Then they started to only sell it commercially. Now they're planning to provide it for the community again. The spindles they have to mill the wheat are wooden, and some of them are over 100 years old. What it's like, I can tell you from when I was in there, and that is you come out all white. Your hair and your coat.
Fort Indian Town Gap is the largest employer for Lebanon County. It's about 17,000 acres. Governor Pinchot initially established, I think back in 1931, established Fort Indian Town Gap. They still train troops there. There's a wonderful amphitheater there, the largest in Pennsylvania, that has been built by citizens and soldiers. My aunt and uncle, as a matter of fact, Charles and Eva Hawkins, when they passed away, left their entire estate that was given to build that, and it was the largest single contribution. That place will always have a special place in my heart. And then, of course, right next to Fort Indian Town Gap is the National Cemetery. And in that National Cemetery, all of our soldiers are buried. Absolutely gorgeous. It's immaculate the way it's maintained. We can be proud of that in our backyard. You know, you get chills when you drive through it or walk through it. You get chills up and down your spine.
The Penway fire happened in April 1970 at 2:23 a.m. The Penway was a bakery, and it was also a hotel at one time. We lived on South Lancaster Street, and from our home, we could see the fire in the back of the building. My husband, he was a driver for the Union Hose Fire Company, and he went out to the firehouse and got a truck, and when he came back, the whole building was on fire. It was horrible. The windows of the bank across the street, they were cracked, and the gas station across 934, they kept water on that because the gasoline pumps were out in the front. It was scary for the whole town because the sparks and the debris blew as far as Kramer's furniture store. There were people had their hoses out and were hosing down the roofs of their homes. It went from number 2 to number 20. It destroyed that many buildings. The cause was never known, but it seemed suspicious. It seemed as if somebody had said it. The Sunoco gas station is there now in that particular area. Well, we were involved in the Agnes flood. It rained and rained and rained and never seemed to stop. The water kept rising, and we never thought, because we were 250 feet from the creek, and our house sat on a high bank. And all of a sudden, the whole street flooded, and our house was underwater. The town of Annville, no one kicked it in or out. We were isolated for 3 days.
I'm Carl Tricona, and I've lived in Annville since 1950, 55 years. Well, in 1990, Annville did not have a parade. The Memorial Day parade had dwindled down, so it was so short that it really became almost non-existent. And so with that, being a member of the Annville American Legion since 1953, I became active in some meetings to try to reestablish the parade. And since then, we've run a parade every year from 1991 through 2004. It's probably the biggest event in Annville right now. It's probably the biggest Memorial Day parade in the state of Pennsylvania right now. General Lynch, who at that time was the Adjutant General of Pennsylvania, said to me, "Carl, how many people are in Annville?" And I said, "About 4,500. He said, "How many people in that parade that just went by?" I said, "About 4,500. There is a lot of work, and I don't do that much of it. My wife has to be given the credit for that. She really organizes everything.
He cleans the glory. And like you say, in the morning, we try to keep him up by the reviewing stand so he doesn't interfere with organizing the parade down at the parade grounds.
And then we have another group that forms the parade. Tremendous support from every level.
The biggest challenge, I guess, is getting bands, actually, and everything else just sort of, from doing it for so many years, it just sort of flows.
Our parade always starts with a helicopter flyover. Last year we had 3 Black Hawks that came down the street at 9 o'clock. That started the parade. Last year we had the Marine Band from Quantico, and they were outstanding. Each year we recognize a group. This year we're going to recognize the Afghanistan and Iraqi veterans. And our parade marshals at that time was all 5 services, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, and Coast Guard. We had Each of them, we picked a member who had served during World War II. And then after the next year, we had 3 veterans recognized in Vietnam. One year, we had all of the National Guard recognized with all the areas they've been in. All veterans are recognized, and all veterans ride in our parade.
I just think the veterans are the love of my life, I guess. Those World War II veterans, they truly were the greatest generation. I don't think the average person realizes just how much it means to them to just say thank you.
There's more to come on Our Town Annville, some hardcore runners, a train station transformed, and a much-loved man whose memory lives on. But first, find out how you can get your own copy of Our Town Annville.
Go Annville!
I'm Gail Karabatsis, and I've lived in Annville about 10 years. There's a group of us runners, and we range from the age of approximately 21 to about 52.
We call them HARD.
Oh, sorry, you didn't hear me say that.
I didn't make that name up, but that stands for Harrisburg Annville Running Dementia. And we are a little crazy to be doing what we're doing that early in the morning.
We meet at 5 o'clock, and the first 10 minutes I usually don't remember because I'm asleep.
5 a.m. is perfect for us because it doesn't interfere with family time, and it gives us a chance just to wake up fresh and new and start your day with exercising, and it's quiet.
Usually we run 5 days a week. Saturdays are generally reserved as our long run, which can be anywhere from 10 to 22 miles, depending on where we are in our training. Right now it's fun. About late August it becomes painful. The marathon that we run is generally in the fall. So by the end of August, we're running close to maybe 50, 60 miles a week. I would say the true marathoners, there are about 12 of us. We've had a lot of people come and go. Every year we seem to get a rookie. And when they say, I think I'd like to run a marathon, then we never let them forget what they said.
We've had so many funny stories. One time we were out on a training run and we found a trail of underwear. And all of a sudden we saw underwear, we saw bras, and in fact we found this red lace bra. And it was in the summertime, it was hot. And one of the guys put it on. It was great. He was conservative too. He was worried we were going to get that photo on the internet.
People know us now. They know that we are harmless. When they hear a gang at 5 o'clock in the morning, it's not like we're out there, you know, raising Cain. I don't mind running in Annville at all. You feel safe. You feel very safe.
It's really special. It was special for me because I was an outsider and I came into town and I really didn't have any friends, and then someone introduced me to them and they became my friends, so my heart grew a lot to love the town because of that.
My name is Ruth Litz. I've lived in Annville practically all my life. Graduated from Annville High School. I won't say the year. Train station was at the end of Railroad Street in the beginning, and then it was sold, and the Friends of Old Annville decided it would be neat to bring it back and reconstruct it. And I remember the day they did bring it back. When you looked at it, it looked like nothing but a pile of sticks, and you thought, oh, is it ever going to be anything? But it gave you a real good feeling to see something like that come back to your town. If you look at the outside, it's pretty much like it had been. Inside, they have a case with some of the things that they're selling, and they also have some old railroad seats. You can turn them from one side to the other, so you don't have to change the seats. They also have the old telephone, typewriter. And then outside they have the stones and things with names on that people donated money to help to pay for it. We live within a block of the railroad station with lots of trains going. You get used to it. It's just another noise.
I'm Scott Schweigert, and I'm the director of the Arnold Art Gallery here at Lebanon Valley College, and I've been in Annville for the past 3 years. The Arnold Art Gallery was a Gothic revival church that was built in 1868. Two congregations merged in town in Annville, leaving this building vacant. So the college seized the opportunity to purchase the building. After the renovation was completed in 1994, the gallery has seen such exhibitions as Mary Cassatt, Rembrandt, the works of Albrecht Dürer, James Abbott McNeill Whistler, some of the great icons of art and art history. So it's been a great space for exhibiting the art of the past, and as you can see, the art of the present as well. This is the work of Michael Pittari, who is actually on faculty here at Lebanon Valley College in Annville. He's an abstract painter who works in the color field. This is our 10th anniversary season. Zimmerman Recital Hall, which is in the neighboring room to the gallery, is home to a lot of student recitals, faculty recitals. It seats about 175 audience members, and it's a great space for intimate recitals. The acoustics are terrific because it was a former sanctuary. And the recital hall has those beautiful windows that allow light to stream in during the day. And at night, the windows are illuminated with artificial lighting. It's really quite breathtaking. We do a summer concert series called The Next Generation concert series for 2 weeks during June, which is really, really a terrific thing to have in Annville. The up-and-coming classical musicians perform here. Music major here at Lebanon Valley College is the most popular major, actually. More students graduate from Lebanon Valley with music degrees than any other department. The college also has a theatrical group or a drama group called Wig and Buckle that's been around for the past 70 years. They do 3 performances each year in Leedy Theater. 2 are plays and 1 is a musical. It's student run and it's student motivated. There is a painting over in the Humanities Center on campus which is called the Lebanon Valley. It kind of captures the essence, the rural, beautiful, idyllic view that we often see in the valley and we take for granted. Annville is a great place. I've been here for only a short time, but in that short time, I've made great contacts. I think there's a real link between the college and the community here. A town and gown relationship is a good one, and it's because it's kind of a family environment. The sense of family and the sense of community here is a very strong one.
My name is Donna Custer, and I moved into Annville 7 years ago. I decided to focus on the retirement communities in the area because a lot of the older people who are a part of forming the town of Annville, either themselves or their children, are now living in some of these retirement communities.
I think that would be in order.
At the Lebanon Valley home, we have Eleanor Whitmire, who is a native of Annville, and she was also a senior high school history teacher at Annville-Cleona High School for quite a few years.
I'm Elizabeth Lingle, and I've lived in Annville, in the town, about 7 or 8 years now. Everybody knows her. She's interesting to talk to. She's a lot of fun.
When you dribble the ball, you dribble right into the walls.
If you go to a graduation now, you know how it's traditional to invite the 50th anniversary graduating class. Eleanor comes because she was their teacher.
And then we also have Bob Kramer. He was the funeral director here in town on East Main Street. And he's known very well in the community for his sense of humor as well as being an undertaker.
And we had 3 butchers in Annville.
And they love to share stories about themselves and their childhood and talk with each other about what happened when and, you know, just the history of the town.
I like that people do tend to stick around. It's the kind of town where a lot of people stay or come back to raise their children. So it is, to me, a very comfortable, familiar feeling. I really like the community.
The town managed to get itself together and do this fantastic streetscape project, which is the best thing that has happened to Annville since I have come to town.
The streetscape project was really a brainchild of Richard Charles, who was a county commissioner and also had been involved with Lebanon Valley College for a number of years. And he really worked, he's credited with getting the project finished. I'm Fran Seeger, and I actually grew up in Annville and went to Lebanon Valley College and then moved away for 30 years, and now I'm teaching at the college. It was very long needed, and it took, I think, about 10 years to actually get the project approved and going, because of course it took work with 422, and it was about a $4 million project by the time it finished. There was a sense they wanted to have a friendlier, safer environment in the downtown area. They also wanted to capture the history of the town. So they put in classic street lights in the downtown area along Main Street, moved all the overhead wiring to the back of the streets so that you wouldn't be visible from the street.
All the sidewalks were replaced, and they needed to be replaced. They were old, they were cracked. The lighting was poor in the past on the street, and now we have this wonderful bright lighting at night. So it just gives the town this wonderful, neat appearance. It just makes it that much more attractive when you come into the town to visit any one of the businesses.
They put in new brickwork with safety lighting for multiple crossings across the street. It creates a very welcoming atmosphere for people coming to Annville for the first time.
What we're seeing is bringing some new businesses into town, and that was the whole point of it, to rejuvenate the business too, and to rejuvenate downtown, and it's helped a lot.
The interest in preserving historic properties, the interest in making the old parts of town look good, the interest in tying the whole thing together with the streetscape project and making the town attractive for new businesses and enterprises has been great. It's been wonderful to live in Annville when it goes through this renaissance.
I'm David Gardner, and I've lived in Annville for 17 years, my whole life. And I live right off of Maple Street on a farm. I know a lot of the people who live there, and I think that Maple Street has retained some of its natural beauty despite construction elsewhere in Annville. On a nice day, everybody's out on their porches, riding bikes, taking walks, pushing their children. And even on the bad days, people are still sitting out on their porch talking to one another. Not necessarily everybody knows each other on Maple Street, but if you come across someone who is new, 9 times out of 10 they will introduce themselves to you. And that's what I like about it. I've had all the shots of the flags because I wanted to point out that it's not just around Memorial Day or 4th of July that people on Maple Street hang up their flags. A lot of the people keep their flags up the whole year round, and I think that shows their patriotism. I really do enjoy living in Annville because everybody usually has a smile on their face. And walking down the street today, I saw people out, a lot of people I didn't know, and even people I didn't know waved hi or said hello, acknowledged that I was there.
Hot Dog Frank was a classic. He did a lot of things for the college students here. In fact, they have a statue of him in what they call their Peace Garden.
Hot Dog Frank was a very special citizen of this community and a very special friend to the college students. He was a Greek immigrant who finally settled in Annville, and he and his wife Mary opened a sandwich shop.
I happen to be of Greek descent. My father's a Greek immigrant. So Hot Dog Frank took an instant liking to me. Yeah, I spent lots of hours with Hot Dog Frank, and when I didn't like something in the dining room, we always would go to Hot Dog Frank's, and you could almost tell what was on the menu by the crowd at Hot Dog Frank's.
He was one of the first persons I met when I came as a student in 1942. And I was able to observe on a number of occasions the way he responded to the needs of students, whether it was for a meal or whether the student wanted to borrow $5 for a corsage or something for a dance for his girlfriend, whatever the case may be. And all Hot Dog would do would ask them to write their names in this little book. And when they came to pay it back, they crossed off their name. And so I'm sure that over the years, he literally loaned thousands of dollars on the basis of a simple signature in a book.
He was 91 years old when he died, and until the day he died, he was an ardent, devoted fan of Lebanon Valley College. Never missed an athletic contest, never missed a home football or basketball game. He was a special guy.
Lebanon Valley College has honored his memory while he was still alive, actually, when we established Hot Dog Night, the last home basketball game of every year. At the conclusion of the game, free hot dogs are distributed or given to the fans.
Throws it up, blocked by Gabriel, tip to the basket, laid up and in, does it count? Yes, it does! Yes! Oh, baby!
In 1994, we had an experience whereby that team won the national championship of Division III. And incidentally, Hot Dog, according to Paul Harvey, may have had a little bit to do with our winning that championship.
Oh, that light is on before the shot was out of his hand. It should not have counted.
Wow.
Hot Dog had died that weekend, and Paul Harvey suggested that perhaps Hot Dog had his hand on the timer because there was a disputed call at the very end of the game as we tied the game and then went on to win it in overtime.
And Lebanon Valley College is the NCAA Division III National Basketball Champion.
He was one of the colorful characters of Annville, and we've had many others, but Frank was one of them.
Everybody does miss him very much so.
Annville is truly a small town.
It's a real nice blend of people who care about each other.
Just knowing people and feeling like you're part of a big family is what I like most.
I love Annville for that, the fact that I feel after 3 years that I have roots.
You feel at home when you're in Annville.
It's just a friendly place to be.
I think it's been a great town to raise our children.
The most ideal quality about this community is the way the people stick together.
There's a community pride. There's a sense of everyone coming together from all walks of life.
I think we're very fortunate, very blessed.
I love Annville. I love it because it's my town.